Good morning. Welcome to Shields and Arrows, where we defend the faith, the family, and the fellowship. I'm trying to hold my coffee out of view here as I was sipping it right before the show. Not very sneaky, but thank you all for joining us today. I am so glad that you have taken the time out of your day to join us. I know that we have a lot of regulars, and y'all are the faithful. You're always with us. You follow our ministry, and that means so much to me. But if you are somebody who does not normally watch, or maybe you're not always engaged, maybe you don't necessarily comment, I just want you to know how much I appreciate that, because kind of the topic of today's show is just the importance of having discussion. And I think that is something we have lost in our society. Maybe it's something that hasn't always been there, and maybe it's something that we can bring to the surface. But Trump did a long form, not an interview, but a discussion with Elon Musk yesterday on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. I did not get to listen to the whole thing because I have 4 children, but I did get to catch some of it. And it was wide, varied. They talked about all sorts of things. They spent a long time talking about the assassination attempt. They went into all sorts of different areas regarding Kamala Harris, stealing some of his ideas, her Time magazine cover, and they want to build tunnels to travel from city to city. It was a vast conversation, but what I want to discuss is how valuable it is that we have discussions in today's time. So that's going to be the topic of today's show primarily. And once again, thank you all for joining us as you are invested in hearing these discussions, considering all of these various matters. Now, I will remind you, if you go over to markbazeministries.org, this is our website right here. Get familiar with it. Make note of everything that you see. As you can see, we've got our articles over here that you can read and access. I need to get some more of those out there. If you will share a bunch of them, maybe I will make some more, okay? And then we have our sermon notes. Yesterday, I announced that we had our brand new complete series Misapplied, fully done, all 10 sessions. The objective of this was just to question that doctrine that was derived from Old Testament Bible stories. So we've got the Old Testament, the Golden Calf, the 10 Commandments, the Psalm 51 prayer. Definitely send that way. If you have somebody who is kind of struggling with right division, contextual Bible study, send them that Psalm 51 prayer link. Let them look through that, consider what we're trying to say regarding the fact that Psalm 51 is just not a passage to be applied to us today. And you can download the PDF notes. So there's that right there. So you can get a very nice printed off copy. So be sure to share those with people. I think the Psalm 51 prayer one is very important for us to get right. I know my church, when I preached it to them, they really appreciated it. As a matter of fact, Chuck was with us for the very last installment of our Misapplied series. Maybe he'll get to join us today. All right, so getting into the main topic of today's show, Trump did a long-form discussion. This was several hours long, this conversation that he had with Elon Musk. The media, let me just give you the quick spin of how the media is going to spin it. They're going to say that Musk's X platform crashed, and it was disastrous, embarrassing for Trump, embarrassing for Elon Musk. The truth is, there were so many people that went to click on it, it just couldn't handle all the traffic, and therefore it crashed. They eventually got it up and running. And then they had a good, nearly 3-hour discussion. And I'll remind you, Trump is an East Coast man. So for a lot of us that were sitting there at 8 o'clock in the afternoon or 8 o'clock in the evening watching, he was up at 10 o'clock at night. So Trump definitely proved that he has the endurance to be able to have these discussions. He has the intelligence, the ability to focus, to have these long conversations. Another thing that the media is going to be saying possibly is that Trump was slurring his speech. The truth is, you have all heard Trump speak very recently in public. He just got done speaking at the Republican National Convention. Trump does not have a lisp. He doesn't have a slurring in his speech. You could tell that this was due to the microphone. Musk's quality of audio was a little bit better than Trump's, and therefore when Trump would say some things with the S, it would get into kind of a pitch that kind of made it sound like a slur. I think it's a bunch of silliness, and they're just trying to find any reason to make Trump look bad. You could tell it was related to audio reasons. The Kamala Harris campaign, they released a statement regarding it, basically saying that they're going to respond to it. And Elon Musk invited Kamala Harris on for a long form, as far as I know from what I read, that Musk invited Harris on to have a long form discussion. I doubt she'll take up Musk on that offer. But this is a very stark contrast. You have Kamala Harris for the past 20-something days running an extremely choreographed, orchestrated, slick, flashy campaign. Very limited time in the public eye. When she does, it's at these rallies. She is surrounded by celebrities, pop stars, you name it. And everything is just dressed up to the nines, right? And then you have Trump, and Trump's running a much more gritty type of candidacy. He is out there in hostile territory. He went and spoke to the NA, National Association of Black Journalists, and that was a very hostile environment for him. He's doing long-form discussions with a lot of media, taking questions at Mar-a-Lago. Then he sits down with Musk to have this discussion. And Trump is very much being a open, accessible person, which is kind of funny because he's always presented as being the elitist. He's not like you. He's rich. He's powerful. And yet, who seems more like the everyday man? Trump is making a point to let people hear him talk. You can find hours and hours and hours of Donald Trump talking, whether it's his rallies, whether it is a press conference or it's a conversation that he has with Elon Musk. All of that is out there. Try to find Kamala Harris speaking off teleprompter for any length of time. You don't find it. I truly believe that long-form discussion is the way to move forward. I hope that it becomes a staple of politics, that as a politician you are expected to be able to get up and talk in front of people without a script and just speak. I hope that becomes a norm, not an exception. Right now, Trump is an exception. Biden didn't do that. Kamala Harris doesn't do that. Barack Obama could do it some because he was just better at it. But I hope that this becomes more commonplace so people actually know. They know what you really believe. They know what you really think. And that means that people are going to need to have the patience and be willing to listen. I don't know if everybody does have that right now. I don't know if that's a trait, a characteristic that many people in the public actually possess. In our day and age, a lot of people are entertained by, or they're used to the short, polished presentations, whether it is politics or a sermon or it is a matters of entertainment. Nowadays, when it comes to our internet, if you have Facebook or other applications, our entertainment is just reels. It's just short clips of very brief videos that last for seconds. I mean, mere seconds. Some of these are less than even like 10 seconds. That's kind of how we're being trained. We're being trained to have extremely short attention spans, not to be able to sit down and listen to long form. But there are those out there that are interested and willing to hear longer form conversation. Podcasts are a great example of this. The Joe Rogan podcast. I haven't listened to Joe Rogan in a long time. When I was a little bit younger, I would listen to some of his stuff. I actually like to listen to some of his UFC episodes because I was doing some jiu-jitsu, things like that, kind of interested a little bit. But his podcast would go on for hours and hours. And I found myself actually paying attention and listening to all the words being said for hours and hours on end. The truth is, if the content is compelling, if it is interesting, if you are invested in what the conversation is, it is easy to sit down and listen to an hour-long discussion, a 2-hour-long discussion. The old style of thinking that a sermon needs to be 30 minutes tops because otherwise people just can't pay attention, it's only true if you're not interested in what the sermon is. That really is the bottom line. And I'm not saying that there's sermons that I could not... There are sermons out there that I would not be able to pay attention for 30 minutes because they're just not good content, whether the presentation's not good, the theology's not good, the doctrine's not good. But even a more boring speaker, if the content is still interesting, you can still be able to pay attention. But we have been shifting to this really brief, really short, snappy type of entertainment, information dump, our short commercials that we get. For a lot of people, the only politics that they get is the little news clips that they see on Facebook or the ads that they see when they're scrolling through the channels or on YouTube. That's all they get. And unfortunately, Kamala Harris has been dominating that arena. She has ads going all the time. So the only information they have about Trump is what Harris is saying about him. If they can be interested, if they are willing to do so, they have more than enough resources to access all the different views that Trump has. Then you parallel that to Kamala Harris. What does she have? She's offering nothing. She's a chameleon. She's a closed book. You don't know what her actual thoughts are unless you go back and watch some old videos from 2018, and then you get a really quick idea that she is a extreme radical. So I'm hoping that if we can shift back to a longer form, the free market of ideas can take place. That really is the case. I think free markets are a great thing. Let the businesses play themselves out. Electric vehicles, I think there's some really interesting things about them. Let the market decide. If there's an electric vehicle that is out there that offers something, then it will do well. The government doesn't need to mandate it. But don't force me to drive an electric car and give up my gasoline engine. I like my 5.0 Coyote engine in my Ford F-150, even though it blew the water pump that one time. Common occurrence, apparently. But we do need to have this free market of ideas. Let the discussion unfold. Let it take place. This is both true in politics and it's true in theology as well. We need our politicians to be accessible. We don't need them to be running and hiding, just doing their rah-rah campaign rallies with pop stars and all the fanfare and the scripted speeches. We need some serious long-form discussion. And we also need that in theology. We are extremely used to preachers presenting sermons in a very polished, very slick format. Now, I'm not saying that your sermon should not be well organized and may even polished. But often sermons, if you listen to a lot of modern sermons, whether it's from just standard evangelicalism or maybe even some of the Reformed Calvinists of our day, the sermons are not really in the nitty-gritty. They are very scripted. You can tell they're highly practiced. I think we need a much more raw, genuine type of sermon. When you hear somebody preaching from the Bible, you can kind of tell, are they drawing knowledge that they have, or are they closely following the sermon notes that they pre-scripted? I think that you need an aspect of genuineness. I don't think that everything needs to be scripted. This show, for example, is not scripted. I really am not sure what I'm going to be saying here in the next few minutes because this show just kind of goes everywhere. And that's kind of the point of this show. This show is just a discussion. All right? I know you may believe that I've had this fancy teleprompter running the whole time and I'm reading it. I don't have one. I sometimes wish I did because it would make my life a lot easier. It would help me stay on topic. Maybe I wouldn't stray so much. maybe I would be able to present it a lot smoother. Maybe not repeat myself at times in which I do so, or ramble on about how the fact that I don't have a teleprompter. But kind of the point of this show, Ask the Theologians, Shields and Arrows, others like it, you don't watch it because you're wanting a highly scripted, flashy, polished, slick, 30-minute discussion on the topic of the day. You really watch this because you are able to get a glimpse at just genuine discussion. You want to know who I am. You're invested in me. Many of you are financially invested in me, and for that I thank you so much, because I can't do it without you. I'm a pastor of a very small church, and I gotta provide for my family somehow, and this is a way that I do it. With that, you are also just invested in my ministry. You follow my studies, whether it's the Sunday mornings, the Sunday school, or Wednesday nights, and you want to know who I am. You want to know what my thoughts are. You wonder, what would Mark Baze think about this matter? And I try to discuss those matters. I try to give you further insight into theology. Sometimes I can elaborate more on this show than I get to necessarily in a sermon, because in a sermon I have to address it, and then I need to get on to the next thing to make the sermon complete and well-rounded and all tied up at the end of the 40, 45 minutes I'm speaking. I know, I talk for a long time when I preach, don't I? Here, though, I can stop and I can pause and I can speak to some things that maybe I felt that I could have done a little bit better, been a little bit more thorough. But that's kind of the point of this show. It is more of a longer form of discussion, not highly stylized, not made to be played out like some kind of scripted, pre-recorded video. It's very much live. It's very much genuine. So I really do hope that we can make it expected of politicians and theologians, pastors alike, that unless you are willing to get in front of people and talk for an hour on end, have really genuine discussion, be accessible, be opened, speak to the people about what you genuinely think, not just giving some scripted speech about your major talking points, but genuinely be a real person. I'm hoping that that can shift people's perspective, the way that they think about these matters. And instead of just going for the candidate or the politician, the pastor that can throw the best pep rally, they want to go for the person that has the most substance. And may substance win out. All right. So with that, I'm looking at everybody who's chatting today. That was the first major spill of what I wanted to talk about today for you. And now I'm just giving you a brief moment to get caught up. Glad to have everybody on today. We'll take a brief moment to thank you all. I appreciate each and every one of you that have taken the time to tune in. I'm always just so encouraged by people. We seem to have, every week we'll have somebody new or somebody pop in, say hi that we hadn't had before. And that's always exciting. It's very encouraging. And so Ken says, I just need a fancy green screen. So we're working on that, okay? Cut me some slack here. So this is nothing but just a black bed sheet that's hanging behind me. When the time comes, I want to be able to do a lot of lives from my church, because I have a pretty nice office there. But also I'm going to work on building a nice background here, hopefully. I just haven't had the time or the way yet. You would be, Ken mentioned coming and sitting in my live studio audience, and he absolutely can. You would be shocked. It's not how you think. My mom's on here. She's seen it. It is far from anything impressive. All right, but maybe one of these days. We're working on it. Now, let's talk about Trump's assassination attempt a little bit. You remember that, right? When Trump was nearly killed and there was a man who lost his life, others were injured. And for a brief moment, everybody calmed down. for just a second, a hair's breadth. And Biden pulled all of his ads against Trump. People were kind of a little bit caught off guard. And so maybe we were going to have a more, what's the word I'm looking for? Civil election year, presidential race cycle. Well, not much has changed. That lasted for about 5 seconds. And after a few days, the attacks on Trump began to flow again. The truth is, Trump, he didn't change his rhetoric a whole lot. He is continuing to use much of the same talking points. Trump of today doesn't look much different than Trump previously. But I will say, the man is in his 70s. Even if you do have a near life-ending event, near-death experience, which he did, who you are is kind of who you are. I don't know. I would say the idea that Trump, being a man of his experience, of his maturity, do you really expect something like that to just cause him to turn on a dime and be this brand new person? To a degree, you are who you are. Maybe you can change so slightly, and as you're younger, obviously, you can change a lot more. We're trying to get my son to get better at learning his ABCs and coloring, and right now he has no interest in drawing or anything, so there's hope for him. When you are older, the older you get, the harder it is to have a drastic change in your temperament, your personality, you name it. So the entire idea, the concept of Trump having this near-death experience and then becoming this brand new person, great unifier, 50-state guy, that's just not really how people are. And also the way a lot of other people are. Think about that. It's hard for other people to change. Trump having a near-death experience, not, Trump nearly being assassinated, is not going to really shift the idea and minds of the Democratic base, the hardcore leftists out there. And I would be honest, if I hope it would never happen, but if Kamala Harris or Joe Biden, if there was an assassination attempt on their life and they were injured, I wouldn't want that for them. That's obviously bad for the country, but is it going to all of a sudden make me want to vote for them? At the time, we were all very optimistic. I even said so. I thought that, okay, there's just no way that Trump can't win now. He seems to have all the momentum, fist in the air, fight, blood on his face, American flag, the bald eagle probably somewhere screeching, and Toby Keith, brought to you courtesy the red, white, and blue, plays in the background. You think that is it. That's the photo op of all photo ops. That sealed the deal. And yet now look at, if the polls are right, there's some question there, but look at how much things have changed. Nothing has changed. Unfortunately, nothing has. The rhetoric has not changed from the media, from Joe Biden. Joe Biden just yesterday, I believe it was yesterday, referred to Trump as a genuine threat to the security of the nation. He's a genuine threat after the man was nearly killed. Nothing has changed. Nothing is going to change. The media, the left, they are going to continue to use that rhetoric. Trump is going to be Hitler. Doesn't matter what happened to him, what nearly happened to him. Trump is going to continue to be the big bad boogeyman until Trump is no longer the candidate. When Trump, and that is if he wins this time around and we have 4 years of it, or it's hard to imagine Trump would run again. But whenever the day comes, when the day comes that Trump is no longer the candidate for the Republican Party, he will not be the boogeyman. He will be a distant memory, and all of a sudden, probably, some of those in the mainstream media are going to have a strange new respect for Donald Trump. And when somebody else is handed the baton, maybe that is J.D. Vance, or I know, I get made fun of it by Dr. White, but I like DeSantis, okay? I'll be honest. Ron DeSantis gets the nod, and he's the candidate, whoever it is. Doesn't matter, whoever it is, they are going to be worse than Trump. They will be the new Hitler. They'll be the new great threat to democracy. the idea of this paradigm shifting, there being this massive change in how we operate as a nation, how the media operates, how politics plays out in America, it's pie in the sky. I know I'm being maybe pessimistic here, but I think I'm being a realist, just seeing the writing on the wall. Nothing's going to change. We're going to be like this for a very long time. About the only way that things may change is if the left starts losing. If they start losing a lot, maybe they'll cool it with the rhetoric. The reason why they use the rhetoric is because they believe it helps them win. So they don't really believe that Trump is a threat to democracy. If they really believe that Trump was the next coming of Hitler, Biden would have sent SEAL Team 6 to take him out, right? If you really believe it, if you really believe that your opponent is the incarnation of evil, would you not do something about it? So they're very disingenuous. The reason why they compare Trump to Hitler and everything else is just because they think it helps them win, which there are some out there that are ignorant enough to where it does. If the left starts to lose and lose consistently, they may reconsider their rhetoric. Now, I'm not saying that everybody on the right is as pure as the driven snow when it comes to rhetoric. All right, there's been a lot of things said about a lot of other candidates. And I think that Joe Biden in many ways is ruining the country. I don't think that Joe Biden is trying to bring it into elections and set himself up as the dictator and start sending people off to gas chambers. But I do think that he is undermining democracy in the sense of allowing people to vote who are not actually U.S. citizens. I think that's a problem. I think that is a threat to the governing order of our society. So we do use that language, but I think that we can all agree who are the ones that are always using the Nazi-Hitler comparison. That is on the left. They always are using Trump, whether it's actual pictures, trying to impose him on Adolf Hitler, you name it. They use the rhetoric, and they're going to continue to do so until they are shown that they need to cut it out. So if we really look at how things are sitting in the day of 2024, August 13th, on this Tuesday, we're right back to where we were. Things move really slowly. Things change really slowly. Our society is really stuck in a rut when it comes to our politics. Excuse me one second. And been out checking cows and tagging calves and breathing in a bunch of dust. And also, I think it's that time of the year in which the trees are starting to cause my allergies to flare up. Moving on to something more important. But our society moves really slow. The fact is, we're not going to see some major shift, I think, in the way that people approach things, the way that people speak for a good long time. Now, the people are fickle. They can easily be swayed one way or the other. But the fundamental way that people approach politics pretty much is going to be what it's going to be. I don't know, we kind of think back on the good old days, at least we maybe see the good old days of candidates speaking well of one another, opposing parties. How good were those days really? Were they really as honest and people as professional and the rhetoric as calm as what it is today? I would say, I would have to think that it has gotten worse. I don't seem to recall some of the major language. Back when Joe Biden said that Mitt Romney was going to put y'all back in chains, that was considered a pretty big deal. And that was back in 2011, 2012. So nowadays, that's just almost everyday language. Remember when, I believe it was Kanye West, he said George Bush doesn't care about black people. I think that's what he said. That was a really big deal too, and that was on the news. And yet nowadays, that's just said every single day on social media. I do think there's a degree in which the temperature has been raised. And as the temperature raises, we're just not going to see it calm down. The candidacy for president is going to be brutal. It's going to be ugly all the way until the election. It'll continue to be brutal and ugly afterward. I don't see us really making much inroads as far as how all of the mainstream media operates. It took them only about a month, if not less than that, to go right back to accusing Trump of being a fascist dictator after he was nearly killed. It's a nice dose of reality for us, just to understand that the idea of having a massive moment in which we all come together and the country is healed. Think about 9/11. I was very young when it happened, but I have talked to enough people to know that there was a brief time in which the country was much more united, and yet shortly afterwards we were right back into an ugly presidential election in 2004 and onward. So that is the lot that we have. We have to be shrewd. We have to be smart in the days that we live in, right? Now, as we are continuing in this unscripted live show in which I discuss all these different matters of theology, I'm going to allow you the opportunity, as I'm continuing to discuss here, if you have thoughts, if you have questions, concerns about what's going on, always on Theology Thursday is when we discuss matters of theology, but sometimes maybe you have questions regarding other things. Maybe you have a question regarding politics or culture, society. I feel like I need to give you the opportunity to ask those kind of questions. Ask the theologian. He just, Dr. White kind of takes everything. So you can ask him a theology question, a political question, a cultural question. But with me, I haven't really been giving you the opportunity to ask those kinds of questions. I guess this would be a great opportunity. So the last bit of this show today, if you have some questions about politics, culture, society that you would like me to answer, or you maybe have some commentary that you would like me to read and just give my thoughts on, this is your opportunity. Feel free to do that. Did you get to listen to the Trump and Elon Musk discussion, the interview that he did on X? What are your thoughts? Did it move the needle? Are people's minds going to be changed? Also, when do you think Kamala Harris is ever going to be asked a single question? I think that we're on day 24 now since she has basically become the nominee, and yet she has not had to do anything. And she won't have to do anything. I'm just telling you right now. She is going to cruise right into the Democratic National Convention. They're going to have all the fanfare, all the celebrities, and she's going to roll into September, and then early voting starts. So if you're in Pennsylvania, please get the word out that Kamala Harris does not have any original ideas, and all of the ideas that she has are extremely, extremely liberal. She is painting herself to be a strong national security person on the border, and she even took Trump's idea of tax-free tips, you name it, right? If you want to get down to the bottom of it, I think we would all say taxation is theft at the very end of the day. Our forefathers went to war for a lot less when it came to taxation without representation, and yet here we are today when the dollar is taxed over and over and over again. All right, so with that, let's see, do you have any interesting commentary for me? So Mary, I see a conversation you're having with Ken. It's not really about me, but let me insert myself into it. So Mary asks Ken where they go to church. And unfortunately, Ken, he is correct, saying that there's not any right dividing pastors in Dallas-Fort Worth. It's amazing because if you consider how many people live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, more people live in that area than all of Oklahoma, okay? And sadly, that is, I don't know if it's going to change anytime soon. There's a house church, kind of. They revolve from one house to the other when they meet, and they actually come normally once a month to my church. So they will all drive up from Dallas-Fort Worth to my church. And for them, it's not too bad. There are some that live over towards the Fort Worth area, which you have to drive all the way across Dallas. But normally about an hour and a half, they can, for the most part, be at my house. or at my church, I should say. They could be at my house too if they wanted. Ken, I've been on him to come visit us. Chuck came to visit, but Chuck is an Okie. So the reality is, you would think if you could go anywhere in the United States and find a right dividing church, the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. And I don't just mean Dallas-Fort Worth. When I talk about Dallas-Fort Worth, we extend that all the way to, you have McKinney. McKinney almost runs directly into Dallas nowadays. It's all just one continuous massive city, and there's just not anything there. Samara, I know you're all the way in Mesquite, but if you get the opportunity to come see us, hop on the highway and just drive north, and we would be more than happy to have you. The drive's not too bad, especially on Sunday mornings. Now, I don't remember how far Mesquite is from here. It's going to be a little bit of a drive, I'm sure. But the good thing is Sunday morning traffic's not bad at all because everybody's, sleeping in. Oh, so Mary, you go to Mesquite Bible Church. Okay. I don't know anything about Mesquite Bible Church, but that would be but if the name Bible in it, if they are a Bible church, then I would hopefully you get some good Bible teaching there. Ken also saw the first base of broadcasting, he says. So this will tell you, if you have not been following all along, if you go back and you watch the archives. So if you go to my website, Mark Baze Ministries, we have a link right here, and I need to get to where the link updates, but we have Shields and Arrows where you can just watch the show. And basically all it is it's just a window into Worshipify. But if you click on Show All Episodes, here is all the list of them right here. All of our log of the Shields and Arrows episodes here. And if you go all the way back, we started out here in, that was in a hotel room right there when I was waiting for my children to be born. And it was kind of one of those things that I was stuck in a hotel room. I had free time on my hands as I was waiting for my triplets to get here. And that's whenever we started the show. That right there, let me see if I can get it pulled up for you. This episode of Shields and Arrows was done, and this is just testament to all that you've done for me. That was filmed with just a laptop. I had no camera there. You can tell the quality of the video. And that laptop was literally being held together by duct tape, as it survived many years of college. And so that's how we started out. And you all quickly helped me get everything together. Within a month of starting Shields and Arrows, you helped me obtain a higher quality camera to be able to film. That's actually the one that I'm using right now. And with that, we just started trying to build from there. You helped me get a nice computer to where we could run our technology that we needed, and it's been so helpful for video editing, you name it. And Ken's point on online churches, I always encourage you, if you can find a good group of good Bible students to meet with in person, you should take every advantage to do it. But the truth is, we're often spread out, and you can't just control everywhere you live. And so online ministry is important investment. That's why I'm trying to provide you this daily content every day, because there is already so much content out there, from standard evangelical doctrine to Calvinist doctrine, and unfortunately, I think that they are misunderstanding Scripture. I don't think they're rightly dividing. I think that they are trying to apply the passages meant for the nation of Israel regarding their obligations to keep the law and the kingdom offer with our age today. And I think that's why we have a lot of contradicting doctrine. So one reason why I do feel compelled to try to do this daily show and try to produce as much content as I can. I'm not saying I'm perfect. There's a lot more I could be doing. But the reason why I'm trying to get the word out is because we really need to tap into this online ministry to try to get our position out so the long-form discussion can be had to where one day, hopefully Tucker Carlson has on a right divider, or at least he has on a right divider and a standard evangelical, and the long format discussion can commence. The discussion can be done because people are finding out about this theology. They're learning about our principles of taking the Bible very literally and defining Scripture with Scripture, and also holding that the Bible is sufficient. That when we see the description of Old Testament prophecy regarding a future day for Israel, in which God will write His law in their hearts, they will dwell in the land forever, they will sin no more, that we interpret that for what it says. We don't put on our mystical glasses and read it as a metaphysical kingdom or spiritual experience, but no, it's a real event that God prophesies of. We'll make our case for that. And hopefully we can make a compelling case to persuade those that disagree with us. But it requires us to put out the content. I want you to know that as I'm looking at the names of the people, as I'm looking at you that are watching this show, I want you to know that this ministry that I'm doing, this is not a one-man show, okay? There are people that are behind the scenes, and I'm looking at them. The names that I'm reading on this, so many of you that have donated your time to watching my content, learning about my content, learning about my ministry, sharing it with others. I know that you've been sharing it with others. I'm looking at names of people who have given to this ministry. That people that are here today, like there's a very nice switcher. I wish I could show it to you. It's setting right here. You can see the flashing of the lights on my hand right here. I would not have had this switcher if I see a very particular name of a person on here that made this possible. Thank you. You are helping us do this. You're making this possible. This online ministry would not exist without you. And there's those that maybe don't get to watch live that have made this possible. We're in the fight together. I want you to understand. This is not a one-man operation, and I do not boast in this ministry for myself. And I don't know that I'm boasting in it, but I acknowledge that this is a team effort. You have a role to play. I know that you may feel like you live isolated in whatever town and you have no right dividing church near you, or you have been kicked out of your church because you've asked too many questions and the preacher didn't like you asking questions. If you feel like you are kind of helpless and you're the only one in your area that understands the Bible, or you don't know how you can possibly make a difference, this is how you do it. By tuning into this show, many of you, some of the best things you've ever done for us is send emails, well, you send emails, but actual mail, I mean, to my church. Some of the best things is when we've gotten letters from people from across the country. I cannot tell you how much it feels so good. I have seen, little old ladies at my church, their eyes just light up when they find out that we got a letter in the mail. Here we are in the middle of nowhere, blue Oklahoma, and we have somebody from Iowa send us a letter and say that they really appreciate our church, that we are teaching the Bible and we are an encouragement to them. That makes them feel so good. The idea that they are a part of something that is nationwide, it's amazing. I'm looking forward to the day that we get our first out of state. I know that out of international mail is expensive, but The fact that you are watching and supporting my ministry, our Dallas-Fort Worth crew, I cannot tell them how much it means to me when we have a group of people who live in one of the most heavily populated areas in the world that has access to more churches, larger churches, fancy churches. You have First Baptist Dallas right down the road from all of them. And yet, they are driving out of the city, away from all the luxuries of it, into middle of cow pasture, nowhere, Bryan County, Oklahoma, to go to a little country church whose parking lot is smaller than probably the about 20 churches that are within a 5-mile radius of them. That says something profound to my church, to my congregation. And it's not because their pastor is anything special. It's because what we're doing at the church is special. What we're teaching at the church is special. That the doctrine that we believe and that what we tackle every single Sunday we are addressing matters of doctrine. And it requires that we do diligently study the Bible. That is so rare that people are willing to fill their vehicles with gas and spend the time to drive. They are honestly driving. They are driving longer than the sermon or than the service is. We have people driving an hour and a half to sit in for an hour-long service. And then they drive an hour and a half back. We even have some people, for example, we had a gentleman last Sunday, I mentioned his name, drive some 3.5, 4 hours just to come to church. That says something. And then obviously, those of you that support this ministry financially, this is how you can play a role. If you want to help us get the word out on rightly dividing the word of truth, on the importance of understanding dispensational doctrine, you can do that. You are not sitting on the sidelines, not having a role to play. There are so many ways. You can obviously pray for our ministry. I appreciate that so much. And pray for me that I can continue to do this ministry, do a good job, that I manage my family well. I'm still a young man. I need to prove myself in that area. So I appreciate your prayers for that I can be a good father and good husband. But there are so many ways that you can help this ministry, and you can actually play a role in that. And I can't thank you enough for it. All right, let's see. I saw a few comments here. One maybe regarding Kamala Harris, and then some others. Mary said in regard to her church that you have an interim pastor who's pretty good, but are looking for a permanent pastor. Thank you for the invite. Yeah, absolutely, Mary. And if there's anything that I can do for your church as far as give my recommendations, if you would like them to call me and get my thoughts on the matter, some important doctrine that they should consider, then feel free. I would be completely available to them. I've done that before for some churches. Rick says, does anyone think that she'll show up for debate? I'm talking about Kamala Harris. I think there'll be one debate. I think that there will probably be one. There'll be one if she wins. If Kamala Harris wins the first debate, she will not debate anymore, I don't think. She doesn't want to give Trump the chance. If she loses the first debate, she'll probably schedule another. But will the media even admit it if she loses? That's a big question. Biden was so bad they just couldn't deny it. That's a big question. My mom asked the question, I know this may sound bad, but do you think some of the Democrats will not vote for her because she is a woman? Some of the Democrats? I don't think so. I don't think they would have a problem with it. I think there are some conservatives that would, and I think that there's a genuine discussion about that. As we just consider the order of creation, men are to be the heads of their family. I think there's a biblical discussion to be had regarding the role of men and women in government. And so, I know, oh man, Mark Baze, he's old-fashioned. He's, man, that old Bible-thumping dark age mentality. I don't know. What accusations? Obviously, oh, you're so sexist that you would say that being a president is maybe a role for the men. I'm just trying to stay faithful to the scriptures. But as far as the Democrats, though, I don't think that the Democrats will have an issue with it. I think that the Democrats are usually pretty good about falling in line. That's honestly the truth. They went, and I've talked about this before with you all, even when we were talking about when Joe Biden was still the candidate. Right now, the Democrats, they were all being hard on Joe Biden. They were saying he needs to leave, he needs to get out. And I still think this is true. Even if Joe Biden would not have dropped out and was still in the race today, when November came around, the chickens will come home to roost. And so if Kamala Harris is their ticket, they'll vote for her. They had no issues voting for Hillary last time. So that's my position. Alan's here today. Alan, great to have you. Our West Coast guy. Right, Alan? You're the West Coaster. Sometimes I get confused because we also have somebody from Canada as well. Is that Rick? Is Rick from Canada? No, I don't think Rick is. There was somebody, and I can't remember their name. Shame on me. Then we've got, Ken says, how about an on-air sign? You want an on-air sign in the back? Or like for me up front? I do probably need an on-air sign. The cameras, the new camera that I've got for my church does have an on-air sign. Like it's got a little red dot there, so I can see it from my stage and know that we're on air when it's running. Alan's Portland. Ken Hammer says, thump that Bible, brother. Yeah, there we go. There we go. So tomorrow we're going to see how some things play out. We'll probably continue to discuss the presidential race because that is the major political cycle that we have. Yeah, Rick, you're North Carolina. That's right. I knew you were. We had somebody, though. Oh, it was... oh, goodness gracious. Who was it? I'm trying to remember their name. It's been a few days since they've been on. Shame on me. I'll work on it. Thankfully, I've had enough people join that I can't keep track of all the names. But, yeah, Cliff is from Canada. That's right. That's right. We do have Cliff on from Canada. I knew Cliff was. And let's see here. I had a comment that I was going to say, oh yeah, we'll probably follow more of the presidential race just because that's the major news. I'm waiting to see if we have any news in the Christian world. I've been checking Christianity Today. I've been checking Christian Post. I've been checking the Gospel Coalition. I've been trying to look at some of that, just trying to keep a finger on the pulse of all that. There hasn't been a lot going on. Christians are kind of quiet right now, I guess. I don't know. There's just not a lot going on. But I'm hoping that something happens so I can talk about some Christian news. But probably the evangelicals are all, well, the loud ones are all too busy just saying how it's actually Christian to support Kamala Harris. Because if you vote Republican, the Republicans may restrict abortion more, and then that's bad because then more people will get abortions. So if you really want to fight abortion, you better vote for people that support abortion. That's that David Platt type mentality, that 4D chess they're playing there. And yeah, Ken's from East Central Mississippi. Ken, if you get the opportunity, all right, send my church a postcard from East Central Mississippi, okay? They would get a kick out of that. They really would. And all right, so that is bringing us to a close on today's show. Didn't quite make the full hour, but you want quality content, like I said, and we don't have the whole thing scripted. I don't have a room, a whole board of people. I know that I look over here to my left sometimes. It's not because I've got this massive line of people working for me. It's because I got a screen right here, and it tells me I'm on air, I'm recording, and my microphone's working. That's what I've got, okay? But one of these days, when this thing is the biggest online theology show in history, I'm going to have like a whole bunch of people over here on my left, and they're going to be bringing up stories to me nonstop. I'm going to have an earpiece in which they're going to be keeping me updated, so I'll be able to give you the latest and the greatest. It just takes time, right? We've got to build this massive movement. And one of these days, I will be the theological heavyweight that everybody is going to be coming to, right? Oh yeah, Chuck mentioned read the new book, Shepherds for Sale. I need to look at that. I mentioned that on the show the other day. I haven't read it yet, but I need to get that one. Very interested in that one. But Shepherds for Sale. Keep an eye on that. I've been saying this for some time. Now, I don't know if I'm right about it. I could always be wrong. However, if the SBC had a massive split or maybe even collapsed in the next 8 to 10 years, I wouldn't be all that shocked. In many ways, I feel like the SBC it's on shaky ground, to say the least. And all it could take is the right thread to be pulled, and that all could unravel. So keep an eye on that. And when the SBC goes crumbling down, if and when, that may be our opportunity right there. You have to, sometimes your chances come in a very small window. And so we need to be ready when the time comes. So that's why we're trying to build up our equipment, our production quality, trying to build our resources. That way, when the time comes, people can go over to Mark Baze Ministries. See what I did there? And they can click on sermon notes. And when they click on that, look what they find. They find, look at this. This young preacher boy has all of this content. I know it doesn't look like much right now, but it's decent there. Every single one of those is worth 10 or so. Except for this one. This one is a little bit shorter. But look at that. Look at all of the content that we have here for you to be able to access. And we're just going to continue to grow. We'll be starting a new series in September. August, we're just going to do some one-off series or one-off sermons on Sunday morning. But then we get to September, we'll launch a brand new series. So stay tuned for that. I think that you'll like it. All right. Well, I appreciate each and every one of you. You're all just excellent. And I'll say this: there are some that watch who don't agree with me. That's okay too, because I've had some excellent discussions with them, and it's helped me define my positions better, define some words better, make me take a serious look at some of my own teaching. And so even if you're somebody who watches and you more watch just to get a better understanding of my position, not because you agree with me, maybe you watch for the sake of maybe countering some of my positions. I appreciate that as well, because you are engaging in the discussion, and that's what we need. We need at least more theologians out there, even if you don't agree with my doctrine, theologians that are going to have the long-form discussions and really hash these things out. We need a lot more of it. So I'll commend you on that. Even if you don't agree with me on everything, the fact that you are willing to discuss these topics, debate them, consider the possibility, offer your counter-arguments, actual counter-arguments, instead of just saying you're a heretic and moving on or what have you. This is all productive. And if we can encourage long-form discussion, serious theological debate, good intelligent conversations, we'll be better for it, okay? If the SBC falls and some other major theology takes its place that's not right division, at least I want that theology to be grounded in a serious study of Scripture and doctrine, as opposed to some of the theological lightweight diet doctrine that we've been seeing up to this point. But as far as shields and arrows, we're going to continue to promote our position, which is that we need to study to show ourselves approved unto God as workmen that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. In the words of Paul in 2 Timothy 2:15. And therefore, because we take such a strong stance on defending the faith, the family, and the fellowship, this has been Shields and Arrows. We are going to continue to provide you daily content as long as I can. I'm so glad our technology is working. We did some updates. It seems to be running strong. It seems to be running smooth. Stay tuned. I'm working on some stuff for the church as well, to where we'll be able to do live streams from there. Thank you all so much. We will see you all tomorrow on Wednesday with more content. This is Pastor Mark Baze. We are signing out for you today. Thank you all so much.